His deputy FBI director is Dan Bongino. So Kash Patel goes on Fox last night and he says that I promise you that Epstein died by suicide. And by the way, Trump's name was on those. So let me just break down what went down. So last night you had Kash Patel on Fox. Kash Patel is somehow the FBI director right now. I promised you that's what went down. And then Kash Patel also said, I'm not going to let you know when we're going to release the Epstein files. We're working on it. We're working through it.
What if I told you the FBI might be burying explosive secrets about Trump and Jeffrey Epstein? The very people who once demanded the Epstein files be released quickly are now stalling. What's happening behind the scenes? And could this all be to protect Trump? Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
On the internet is the Epstein files. What's the answer to that?
The answer to that is the same as everything else. I'm not going to withhold information from the American public ever, but I'm also not going to rush to get it out there.
There is a lot of conspiracy theories out there.
There are.
The Epstein thing, you dealt with Maria, you said, as far as you know, he killed himself.
I'm telling you, he killed himself.
Simple. One subpoena to the FBI. Give me the list. Oh, you don't want to give me the list and you're going to break the law and commit contempt of Congress? We're going to take your money.
Imagine standing on a soapbox, yelling for transparency one day, and then quietly tiptoeing off into the shadows when the same topic lands on your own doorstep. That might sound like a bad sitcom, but it's exactly what happened with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. If these names sound familiar, that's because both of them were once poster boys for demanding the release of every last detail about Jeffrey Epstein's dirty laundry. No stone unturned, they said. Justice and answers for the public, they cried. And then, poof, something shifted. Let's just say their enthusiasm for public transparency didn't survive when it started brushing up against Trump's interests.
Who is currently holding, this is way off the topic, but who has Jeffrey Epstein's
Black Book?
Black Book?
FBI.
But who? That is, I mean, there's...
Oh, that's under direct control of the director of the FBI.
We're not telling you the truth about serious allegations out there that Epstein may have had video and audio of people out there doing things they shouldn't have been doing.
Let's talk about Kash Patel first. For someone who's built a reputation as an outspoken truth teller, his record on the Epstein files has been more zigzag than straight line. Back in 2019, Patel publicly ranted about the need to declassify all relevant Epstein information immediately. His social media and podcast appearances hammered the same drumbeat. He was practically auditioning for a role as the internet's favorite truth warrior. But fast forward a couple of years, and Patel isn't crusading for answers anymore. Instead, he's busy downplaying FBI delays and casually brushing off requests for Epstein-related documents. On his podcast, he once boldly claimed, "No one else has the guts to uncover Epstein's full story, but we will." Yet, after working alongside Trump-appointed officials within the FBI, what did we get? Excuses, delays, promises about ongoing investigations that he conveniently couldn't comment on. It's about as satisfying as biting into a donut and finding it's empty inside. And then there's Dan Bongino, Mr. Tough Guy, former Secret Service agent turned conservative media hero. Before stepping into Trump's orbit, Bongino couldn't stop talking about Epstein. He ran countless rants on his radio show. No commercial break was safe from his tirades about how Epstein's sickening web of connections needed to be ripped apart for public justice. There were even clips of him going viral where he shouted, "We need names. We need accountability. No cover-ups." But once he got a cushy deal and found himself bouncing around Trump's inner circle, Bongino got awfully quiet about those names. When asked about growing concerns over Epstein files staying under wraps, his former firebrand approach turned lukewarm at best. He went from a full-throated indictment of elitist corruption to saying things like, "Well, these things take time, and I trust the system to handle this the right way." Trust the system? From the man who used to call the same system rotten to its core? The 180 is almost dizzying to watch. So, what gives? Why did these two, who stomped around loudly demanding answers, suddenly lose their appetite for digging into Epstein's connections? One word: Trump. What both Patel and Bongino have in common is their proximity to the former president and the institutions under his political influence. It's no coincidence that their tone softened when Epstein's ties to individuals in Trump's social or business networks started popping up with greater frequency. Here's the kicker. This shift isn't just about personal allegiances, it's bigger than that. Their silence highlights an unsettling pattern where institutions and individuals seem almost allergic to holding certain people accountable. The fact that they've conveniently pivoted away from transparency makes you wonder, how deeply does this issue go, and who benefits from leaving certain rocks unturned? And let's be real, it's not a good look. When key figures like Patel and Bongino flip their stance this dramatically, it undermines whatever shred of credibility they once had. They were positioned as champions of transparency, but now they're stumbling over their words when anyone asks why critical Epstein documents remain locked away. Their about-faces don't just protect the Trump camp from embarrassment. They also make it easier for institutions like the DOJ and FBI to brush off increased demands for transparency. It's hard to rally public pressure when the supposed freedom fighters are suddenly waving white flags. What's also troubling is how neatly these changes in their rhetoric serve Trump's narrative. Remember, a huge part of Trump's playbook is deflecting attention while muddying the waters enough that no one can clearly connect the dots. By dialing down their urgency and sidestepping questions, Patel and Bongino are helping to preserve that fog of confusion. Whether intentionally or as a byproduct of loyalty, the result is the same. The Epstein files stay buried, the public stays in the dark, and the system they once accused of being corrupt hums along undisturbed. Here's a question worth asking yourself. If people who once banged their fists for accountability are suddenly avoiding the topic, who exactly are they protecting? The alignment is too convenient to ignore, especially when you consider that Trump himself stands to benefit most from keeping Epstein's files locked up. The longer those files are delayed, the less the public learns, and the more control Trump's team has over shaping the narrative. But there's more to this puzzle, and the deeper you dig, the murkier it gets. Let's talk about Trump and Epstein directly, because the connections they don't want you to see are hiding in plain sight. Ever notice how certain names just can't seem to stay out of the spotlight when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein? Donald Trump is one of them, showing up in connection after connection, like that annoying song you can't get out of your head. And yet, we keep hearing the same recycled excuse from Trump and his defenders, that his relationship with Epstein was minor or just a casual acquaintance. But here's the thing. When you actually look at the evidence we already have, that story starts to fall apart faster than one of Trump's comb-overs in a Florida hurricane. For starters, Trump's name appears multiple times in Epstein's released documents. These aren't just vague mentions either. We're talking about call logs, flight records, depositions, things that actually put them in the same orbit, metaphorically and literally. Epstein's infamous little black book and other communications include Trump's name, making it clear there was direct contact between the two. This isn't some random coincidence. These logs were Epstein's way of keeping tabs on his network, and Trump was on that list. Add to that some legal transcripts where Epstein's escapades were being dissected, and there's Trump's name popping up again, like a bad penny. This isn't what anyone would call casual. It's documented interaction over and over again, whether they want to admit it or not. And then there's the whole South Florida scene. This wasn't just a random crossing of paths at a fundraiser or a gala, like they'd like you to believe. Trump's Mar-a-Lago was practically a backdrop to some of Epstein's antics. They both operated in the same high society circles in Palm Beach, spending time at each other's properties and mingling with the same crowd. Epstein even made appearances at Mar-a-Lago, a hangout that Trump owned and frequented. That's not, oh, I've met him once or twice. That's, we were running in the same social club. And let's not forget, Epstein's Palm Beach mansion was just around the corner. If those connections weren't awkward enough, let's talk about the cringeworthy comments Trump made about Epstein that have aged worse than Old Dairy. Remember when Trump called Epstein a great guy? That wasn't a one-off slip of the tongue. Trump went on to say that Epstein likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. How does anyone spin that as innocent? It's not the kind of thing you say about someone you barely know or don't respect. It's the kind of thing you say about someone you know pretty well, whatever that well might mean in this case. These comments were public, out in the open, long before people started taking Epstein's crimes seriously. But now, retroactively, they hit differently, because they add even more weight to the idea that Trump was a lot closer to Epstein than he's willing to admit. And hold up, if all these connections are public knowledge, think about what's still locked up. Because here's where things get weird. We only have limited access to Epstein's flight logs and files. What we do have already shows Trump's name in call logs and evidence of shared flights. For example, in some released logs, Epstein is listed as being on Trump's jet. That's not exactly a casual business meeting. Being in the air together implies a level of coordination. So, imagine what could be sitting in the unreleased files. What other trips, parties, or serious interactions might still be hidden in that folder the FBI apparently doesn't want us to see? Speaking of those files, the lack of transparency around them is baffling. The FBI and DOJ have consistently danced around the release of more Epstein documents, citing ongoing investigations as the reason. Trump's legal team, of course, has done its part by blocking Freedom of Information Act (FOIA) requests at every turn. Tom Fitton, one of Trump's legal advisors, has made multiple attempts to get these files released, only to hit a wall every single time. Now, why would anyone be so determined to keep the lid on something if there's nothing embarrassing or incriminating inside it? The repeated denials create an air of secrecy that just begs the question, what's in there that's so damaging people are willing to fight, delay, and block access for years? And here's what makes this doubly frustrating. The public has every right to know. The fact that federal agencies are dragging their feet to release these documents raises a bigger issue about accountability. These aren't just files. They're pieces of a puzzle that could explain how powerful people moved in Epstein's orbit and what they might have been doing there. Trump is a key figure in all this, not because of some vague association, but because of concrete, searchable records tying him to Epstein over and over again. If this much has slipped through cracks of red tape, the mind boggles at what the totally unreleased files could reveal. And while the FBI and Trump's team hope you'll stop asking, the truth isn't going to stay buried forever. But until the full story comes out, some big questions hang in the air. What do these files really contain? And why are so many powerful people so desperate to keep them hidden? You might not like the answers, but that just means we have to look harder. Because here's the thing, the truth doesn't just come out on its own. Sometimes it needs a push. The Epstein files are like a locked vault of secrets, with the most powerful people fighting to keep the key hidden. Even the evidence we do have paints a disturbing picture, but the missing pieces could connect dots they don't want us to see. Think about it. Delays, legal roadblocks, and silence from those who once called for transparency. It's all designed to make you forget. But the truth matters. Stay informed, ask questions, and support real journalism. These files could shake the political world to its core, but only if we refuse to let them stay buried in the dark.